If the fellowship is broken
Yeah.
between the churches,
Yeah.
does the healthy church still do all that it can to minister to the sick church, or try and change its perspective?
It should do.
Or is there just a total break?
Well, it may, in practice, there may be a total break, but what is desirable is that conversation should continue with a view to trying to show the erring church the error of its ways. Again, in the 4th century, eventually, the truth of the Trinity got through to those sections of the church which had been embracing Arianism.
Yes, yeah.
And this is the sort of conversation that ought to be going on. By the grace of God, will be going on in the situation that we have on our hands, where officially, it seems, the Episcopal Church south of the border and the Anglican Church of Canada is resolved to proceed on the basis that whatever else is true, same-sex unions under certain conditions are a mode of holiness, and everything else must be defined around that.
Can you explain to me why it is that the parish of St. John's is in need of protection at this point? What does that mean?
Oh, first of all, let me say you are right to ask that question, because protection is needed, and the protection that is needed is the restoring of circumstances which enable us as an Anglican church, with episcopal oversight that we trust and accept as the focus of leadership, enables us as an Anglican church which looks for episcopal leadership, actually to receive it. My daughter's dog at one stage had to be put down because, as a friend said, he's no longer able to be a dog. And if an Anglican church that wants to be an Anglican church is not able to look to its bishop for leadership, is obliged to declare itself out of communion with its bishop because of a denial of the gospel that the bishop is embracing, it cannot receive, therefore, from that bishop either the confirmation of its adolescent full believers, or the provision of clergy who are fully committed to the Church's own doctrinal position. And that is the experience that St. John's has had to live through during these last 5 years. To put it brutally, simply in order to explain clearly what it means, one has to say that the Bishop of New Westminster is seeking to starve us out. We won't accept his ministrations for what seem to us to be a compelling reason. All right, but he is not going to allow us to receive episcopal leadership from any other source. That's call it the stalemate situation in which we find ourselves now. And that is why we are thinking very seriously of accepting an invitation into a different alignment which has been extended to us.
It's also been said that Anglicanism is a wide tent and has room for people who have different perspectives and different views. So why can't we just agree to disagree on this, or say live and let live?
Because what we're contending for is the gospel, and the alternative, which we're being asked to sanction, even if we don't personally agree with it, is not the gospel. It is, in fact, a denial of the gospel at a key point. And it would be supremely unloving as well as being supremely irreverent, it seems to me, to the God who has spoken and told us what the truth is, if we simply said, oh, well, let's not bother. There are secondary matters, as I said earlier, on which it is possible to say, oh, well, let's not bother,
Yes.
like believers' baptism versus infant baptism. But this is a primary matter. This is what it means to get right with God. And none of the details, call them details, none of the specifics, I'd better say, of the gospel are negotiable. And the gospel is summarized for us in the creed. And no Anglican, I think, would want to say that anything that's covered in the creed, the creeds, there's the Apostolic Creed, the Apostles' Creed, I should say, and then there's the Nicene Creed, which is actually the creed of the Council of Constantinople of 381, but that's a detail. No Anglican would want to say that matters covered in that creed, in the creed, are negotiable. And in fact, one of the things that liberal Anglicans are saying to us is, look, this question of whether same-sex unions are instances of holiness or of sin, that isn't covered in the creed, so it's secondary. And we have to come back and say, no, by terms of the Bible, it is not secondary. And I refer back again to 1 Corinthians 6. Don't be deceived. Those who follow certain lifestyles will not inherit the kingdom of God, of Christ.
The Bible's clear and there can be no compromise.
Yeah, that's right. And so it would be unloving as well as irresponsible. Irresponsible, I think, in the sense of being irreverent towards God as well as being unloving towards our neighbor.
How is it that it would be unloving? What do you mean by that?
To leave people in error which may ruin them eternally. As I said, I don't want to believe this, but I don't know how I can disbelieve it. Paul says it. So to leave people in error that may ruin them eternally is, in my judgment, extremely unloving. I am supposed to love my neighbor. Loving my neighbor means helping him every way I can to get on his feet humanly and spiritually. If I allow him to continue in a ruinous misunderstanding of the gospel, I'm not loving my neighbor. It seems to me a very sensitive and very fundamental issue.